United States by name, but certainly said, you can't be doing things unilaterally, and you've really got to go through the United Nations. Well, I got some thoughts about that for you in a couple of minutes. It's 7:45, News Talk ZB. News Talk ZB, 13 minutes to 8 at News Talk ZB. The Secretary-General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, has had his day of glory, or his night of glory, his day of I told you so, because he was dreadfully humiliated, wasn't he, by the Americans, I guess, a year ago, when it became clear that he could do nothing really to stop the United Nations going into Iraq unilaterally. Well, he's had his day of I told you so. And Mr. Chirac, old rubberface, he's had his day of I told you so, too, at the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York City. And they've both told George W. Bush that no nation can any longer act alone. And, of course, they say these words with Iraq descending into a Vietnam-like mire, and with Bush's ratings going down the toilet, and with an ex-general, Wesley Clark, retired, looking like he might just be able to sweep the Republicans away next November. Well, look, it is true. Mr. Bush doesn't really have the Clinton brain. He doesn't really weave the spells, weave the policy thoughts like Bill Clinton. And talking about the evildoers doesn't really do it for us, does it? We're not quite that simple, I suppose, are we? Evildoers doesn't convince us. We know about the Palestinians in Vietnam, don't we? So it doesn't. Mr. Bush doesn't excite the world or inspire confidence in the peoples of the world. As one Frenchman said recently, too, since September the 11th, it seems Americans have been kinder to each other and meaner to everyone else. But hang on a minute. How many resolutions of the United Nations were actually passed telling Iraq to comply and open everything up and let the inspectors come in? Telling the Iraqis to come clean. How many resolutions were there actually passed by the United Nations and still nothing was done? 13, wasn't it, actually, through the 90s? Actually, when did the United Nations... when did the United Nations actually do anything? When did they actually do anything except get paid well, go to the commissary for the fresh Argentinian beef straight off the plane and sit on their jacksies? These United Nations officials. The greatest bloody perk job in the world, their job at the UN. Greatest perk, do-nothing job. Because the wonderful thing about the United Nations is it's such a Babel, Tower of Babel. Nothing can ever get done. Getting rid of Saddam was worth it. Let us not forget this. We've taken the dirty, filthy boot of Qusay and Uday and Saddam and Chemical Ali and Comical Ali off the throats of the Iraqi people. Remember the World Trade Center. Remember what that was like that morning. Remember what they did. Not the Iraqis, I know that. It's a difficult bit, that one. But the terrorists. Remember what happened to America. That Kofi Annan, I've got to say to you, he's been a very cheeky darky overnight. He's been a very cheeky darky. It's all very well giving a darky that Secretary-General job will only take so much. I'm sorry? We will only take so much. We're not going to be told how to live our lives by a Ghanaian. And they're a model, aren't they? For how to live your life, for how to run a country. Mr. Nkrumah, remember him? Mr. Saintly Nkrumah, 1957, the Prime Minister of Ghana, Nixie's on the take and the cut his throat. In the normal African way of getting rid of a leader. We're not going to be told by a Ghanaian too much. Mr. Annan says the collectivity of the United Nations kept the peace for 58 years. That's what he said overnight. Now, hang on a minute about that. 58 years, the United Nations kept the peace. Let's think about that. Where does Mr. Annan get that idea? Where does that darky bloke get that idea? What about the oppressed states of Eastern Europe for 50 years, who endured the communist boot for 50 years? What about the half of Africa? How much peace was kept there? You know what I mean? The nuclear bombs kept the peace for 58 years, and states like Russia and France kept the world very nicely for themselves for 58 years with the help of the United Nations. That's the truth. That Mr. Kofi Annan, that cheeky darky, should ask the people of Rwanda how the United Nations kept the peace 58 years, or the people of the Congo, or the people of Zimbabwe, or the oppressed people of South Africa, or the people of Mozambique, or the people of Angola, the people of Sudan, the people of Somalia, the people of Vietnam, people of Cambodia, people of Laos, people of Bosnia, people of Kosovo. They had the peace for 58 years. You've got to think about what these people say. This is nonsense. It is 9 to 8. News Talk ZB. Yes, I'll be out the back living in the tent shortly, thinking I'm R.J. Skelton. It is 8 to 8. In the news at 8 o'clock, New Zealand backs Kofi Annan's criticism of the United States. A warning for anyone planning a protest at the Auckland Hui. Full steam ahead for California's recall vote. They will be voting in a fortnight, and the NRL pours cold water on a second New Zealand team. It's only beaten by 2 of us. Details, 8 o'clock.
713.
No, people. Don't be fooled by this bloody nonsense coming out of Kofi Annan's mouth and Chirac's mouth of the United Nations. 6 minutes to 8 it is. For the United Nations, think sit around, do nothing. For France, think memories of la gloire. Do you know what I mean? You remember the utterance of great truth. What is the difference between the French and a piece of toast? And the answer is you can make a soldier out of a piece of toast. Now, for Bush, think we've been attacked, we've got to do something. Maybe the Americans should just get up and leave Iraq. Don't want them there? We'll go. Then watch the Jeffos tear each other apart. Then watch the whole place go balmy. Then we'll start reading articles. Gee, perhaps things weren't so bad with Uncle Sam here. I don't know why they just don't get up and go. Poor old GI's dying every day. Kids from Minnesota dying. Well, for that crowd. Anyway, New Zealanders in Australia are getting to see some great rugby league. And the most wonderful thing, and because this is what really suits the Kiwi mentality, is they don't have to pay for it. Because the world owes New Zealanders a living, doesn't it? Anyway, it's in the name of helping the Warriors to another grand final. Yes, good morning. Gosh, I'm a Cambodian, and I've been listening to the shortwave radio up here in the hills. And Mr. Kofi Annan says they've kept the peace for 58 years. Perhaps my radio's playing up. Surely he can't be serious. I live up country in Ghana. I've been listening to Mr. Kofi Annan on my shortwave radio. The peace for 58 years? Surely he can't be serious. I live in Sudan. Surely that man cannot be serious.
Tune your mind with News Talk ZB, a radio network station. News Talk